Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial by simply going to audibletrial.com/usingyourpower. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
Welcome to Using Your Power. I'm David Andrew Wiebe, and I'm joined by
Maveen, Kaura.
How's it going, Mav?
I'm doing really good today, David. How are you?
Powered up.
Powered up, as always.
Using your powered up.
That's awesome. So what is our topic today?
Our topic today is value creation, the best way to build a business. And maybe just to set this up, I think we talk a lot about adding value in this world. And that's something you hear more and more and more. And it's something I latched onto fairly early in my business life as well. And I still believe in it. But I think it's important to consider what exactly that means. Because if we quote unquote add value the wrong way, it's not actually adding value to people, and we're not getting any business by doing that.
Right. So I know when we just kind of discussed this, we came up with 7 points that are going to be showing that there is value and 3 points saying there is no value.
Yeah, and we'll see what we come up with at the end, but that's what we're going to start with.
Awesome. So why don't you start it off?
Yeah, I think the first one is just people love to learn something new. And this is also a principle of content marketing too. As you create content and you share about your particular industry, people will come and see if it's a tutorial or a how-to guide or something that they want to learn about, whether it's, playing guitar or how to tie a shoelace or whatever. If they come away feeling like they're smarter than they were before reading the content in the first place, they've gotten some value from it, and that might be reason enough for them to want to follow you or do business with you.
For sure, and I like the idea of social media. I know we talk about social media quite a bit, and the nice thing about it is you can definitely build a brand on social media. You can start adding value to people's lives, and the way that really does work in building value and creating value for your business is, word of mouth is so powerful. We all know that, and a lot of times that word of mouth can be used to advertise to people, very low budget to do so, and you can really increase your revenues, you can increase your sales, you can increase your brand awareness, and you can really start doing a lot of different things out in the world that you may want to start doing.
Right. So basically what you're talking about there is just maybe even sharing your content or answering questions or bringing some form of value to the people that are already on social networks, maybe in small ways. And then over time, they begin to see you and want to do business with you.
That's it.
Cool, man. The next thing is, people want to reciprocate when you give them value. Now, please don't use that as a tactic, right? Don't just give because you're going to get. I think, you have to understand what the value means to the people that you're providing it to as well. Without knowing that, you can't actually add value to them. Like, you might be like, hey, here's a solution, guys, and then hear crickets because the solution is not really connected to the problem, or it's just not the best solution, or it's not well matched to what their needs are. But generally speaking, people want to reciprocate when you give something to them. And I think, you will be rewarded by the law of reciprocity if you just keep giving.
Absolutely, and one of the things I like about adding value to people is, the more value you can keep adding to people and your products and your services that you provide, the more times the customer will keep coming back to you because, not only are you adding value to the products and the services, but you may have a great customer service that's handling the, that side of the business as well for you and really handling that soft transition between the business and the customer, right? So I think the more you can keep doing that, you keep adding value to the customer, add value to the product, the more you will keep seeing that people have recurring, and then use that word of mouth that I just talked about to keep sending new business back towards you.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that ties into my next point too, which is, value creation increases your credibility over the time. So people just begin to look at you as being more trustworthy as you continue to share things with them. If you do it once, that's one thing, but if you keep doing it fairly consistently week after week, or just day after day, or month after month, then they begin to go, oh yeah, I've gotten so much from this person. I just want to be able to connect with them, or learn about them, or learn about what they do, or maybe even buy something from them. And that's the transaction that begins to happen.
For sure, I love it. And one of the things too, if you're going to be building your business, there's a reason you went out there and started your business. Outside of the product and the service, and maybe having a passion for what you're doing. The idea is we all got to live, and we all got to make some money. So developing the business, then developing the sales, right? And that's the whole idea. Is if we can get sales, we can make some money, and then we can continue to do all the things that we enjoy doing, such as maybe boating or hiking on the weekends or whatever we like to do, right? But when it all starts by building value for your end customer or user, right? But you have to believe in that value, and so does your sales team, so does your company, and that's obviously shown in your mission statement, your value statement that you have, and your vision statement. But it's also it's something that your team will live, right? And I think the more that gets into people's way of living and the way of thinking, then they automatically start developing that value for your end customer and user.
Yeah, great point. And I think my next point is a potential warning or possible negative to this whole thing of adding value to people. But
so are we getting into the nose?
Well, I do have one more positive after it. If you want me to do the negative after, I could do it that way.
Yeah, let's do the positive and then let's move on to the negatives.
Okay. So, though it may take longer to build a business by adding value to people versus just writing clauses and additional fees into your contract, such as with credit cards, which is, may be a way to get rich, but it's not adding value to people. So adding value to people may take longer than just kind of going for the jugular with your business plan. You will also build a more stable business over the long haul as a result of continuously and consistently doing that over time.
I like what you said, David, because it's about not always being black and white in your business and your rules and say, sorry, it's got to be a certain way. Sorry, that's what's written in my book. And you hear that all the time with customer service,
sad,
right?
Man.
And, it is having some gray area and really understanding where that customer is coming from. And, the more you can add value to that customer, is I think exactly what you're saying here, the more you'll really retain that customer, right?
Yes.
And again, going right back to word of mouth, the better experience the customer has, the more they'll tell people, especially if it comes from when you are able to fix a negative situation.
Yeah. And I mean, I've shared some consumer reports on the music entrepreneur over the years. I even had a recent thing that, I'm tempted to share too, but it was like a voicemail system that I thought I canceled, and then I was still being billed month after month after month, not even aware of it. And then, tax time comes around and I'm looking at my bills going, why am I still being charged this same amount? So, things like that happen. But just like you said, Mav, they told me, it's our policy and you agreed to our terms of service, so there's nothing we can do. But okay, but what about an exception? No, there's nothing we can do. Yeah, that's great, but I haven't used this at all. So is there anything you can do? No, we can't do anything.
Right, exactly. And you haven't used the product in almost 2 years.
That I'm aware of, yeah.
But you just got billed for it for 2 years. So, it is like that, unfortunately, out there. And, a lot of people, because it's money that, the employees are also set by standards saying, hey, you can only, you can't give out thousands of dollars a year. The idea is to generate income for the company. So when the employee is the one who's got to maybe a check maybe being written for $1,000, that employee is going to be talked to by their management team or their employer and be like, hey, why are you giving out $1,000 that we made, right? The idea is to generate, not give back out, right? So they might be working from that location.
But what I've found out is generally they don't want to deal with a Better Business Bureau dispute and draw it out and have to go through a ton of hoops to deal with it. And there was one situation where I went through the Better Business Bureau and still things didn't get resolved. But I'm sure that I cost them money because they didn't want to go through that process.
Oh, there you go. So sometimes you just got to play the long game, it sounds like.
Exactly, you do.
Awesome. So getting into the nose here. So one of the things I was thinking about is, you don't really need to develop a value creation for your product or service. And the reason I'll say that is, we look at something like ketchup, something so simple. We all use it on our fries or on our burgers or whatnot, right? And sometimes it comes into brand recognition versus value of the product, right? There's ketchup and there's catsup. Which one do most people reach for? Heinz, because they've built that brand and they said, Heinz is actually ketchup. So the first time when someone asks you, you think of them. You don't think of No Name or some other brand, right? Or French's ketchup or something like that. I don't know if they have it. But, you think about them. You think about mustard. You think about French's mustard typically, or Grey Poupon or whatever, right? But it's just that brand that creates it. And the way they've done that is because they've been able to do the demographics. They put a lot of money behind it. They've done the psychology work. They've been able to really understand what marketing looks like. They've understood what sales looks like, and they've really built that brand, right? And exactly what Nike's done and Adidas has done. They've built fitness as, if you want to be fit, you got to wear Nike, right? There's nothing else that's going to make you more fit. Well, is that true? Not necessarily, but they've made it, right? So are they really creating any additional value? Yes, their products are great, don't get me wrong, but they can just talk about the name that they have built, and that sells itself.
And the interesting thing is, I think the value could be finite, right, or limited. Like with ketchup, it adds value to your taste buds, and I think that's why people reach for it. So yeah, that might be a limited scope of what they do, but in a weird way, it's still adding value.
Right, and catsup can do the same thing as ketchup.
Absolutely,
right? So,
any ketchup brand could.
Right, but a lot of people say, I'd rather eat my burger plain versus putting ketchup on my burger versus ketchup, right? Although it's the exact same thing.
And by the way, the best ketchup is the ones that the restaurants make. Their house-made ketchup is usually the very best that you can find.
Yeah, you've probably learned that on a Food Friday, I'm assuming?
I've learned that through the years, man. Not just Food Friday. Yeah.
Awesome. So do you have a point there? Do you have a next one?
I do, yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, this is the potentially negative point, which is, your intentions must be really clear. And I think this is something I'm working on with the music entrepreneur as well, but otherwise it may leave an opening for others to take advantage of your good nature, right? Like if your mission is to add value to people, then you're going to be like myself or Pat Flynn or somebody like that. And yeah, we're going to answer every email, and yeah, we're going to do every guest post, and yeah, we're going to jump on every opportunity. But what we find is sometimes people are really just wasting your time, and they don't know what they want out of the agreement, or they try to give you a bunch of tips and ideas of how your business is supposed to be set up. But meanwhile, you're staying steady, you're trying to keep consistent, but you're just getting distracted by, things that aren't really opportunities, things that aren't really well matched to your audience, things that may not make you any money at all. So you have to really be clear on what you're trying to do.
I like the use of the personal examples that you always have, David. I think that's a great thing to do.
Right.
One of the things I was thinking about here on is the value creation for businesses. At the beginning, they may start that way. I think that's usually the way, you really get your name out there and really build on a brand and whatnot. But sometimes what happens, and we've talked about this in a previous episode, is, the company's able to make some money. They start getting a huge marketing team, and what's the first thing they do is go get a celebrity. Now they're not necessarily selling on the value of their product anymore. They're really just banking on that celebrity to help move more product, right? And the product may be semi subpar. It may not be as good, and you could maybe, yes, you may sell a little bit less by not using that celebrity, but because they're using that celebrity, because it's, maybe Kim Kardashian is loved by a lot more people, and she's influential, and people will listen to what she says. So, people will walk up to her and say, hey, can you just talk about my product, right? I know Oprah has a top 10 list or top 20 list that Oprah does every year. And
club. And
if you make that list, man, you blow up, your product grows, and your company will grow. Is that really any value creation? It created maybe value for Oprah, and because she's an influencer, it made your business bigger, but you didn't really go and use that marketing in your business. But I guess, depending on how you look at it, using an influencer to help grow your business is a very smart thing to do too.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways it could end up adding value to you or to them. Whether or not it adds value to your audience is something you need to seriously consider, because otherwise you're just alienating them, and you can't funnel them into your long-term business plan and just ruin that relationship for a one-time, business thing. And that's what Pat Flynn's talked about too. He's like, yeah, there were times where I was just caught up in the money. And I think that happens to all of us. It's like, yeah, okay, well, let's try this out just to see what happens. It looks like I could make some money with it. And then we find out maybe it's not well matched to our audience and they don't like it, or we just don't make any money with it, and we find out, we wasted a lot of time trying to get into that particular segment.
Awesome. Final thoughts?
Well, I think, we should all think about value creation and what it means to us and how we can add value to our audience. I think some of the negatives are worth considering too, just thinking about why value creation could sometimes go the wrong way, or you could end up spending an inordinate amount of time on things that may not matter or may not do your business any good. I think I don't know if it's the quote unquote best way to build a business. I think it's hard to arrive at that conclusion, but I think it is one of the best ways to build a long-term business that actually helps people. There's many other ways to build a business, but if you have your target audience in mind and your goal is to help them and add value to them and bring something to them long term, then I think it might be the best way.
Absolutely, and I agree. Value creation is the best way to build a business. I don't think if you don't build value, you'll see most of the times those businesses aren't around after 5 years, anyways. But if we're looking at our individual selves here, I know myself, I've gone out and started on the discoveryourlifetoday.com, and I've said, how can I build value for people? So I started writing about things that I thought that people wanted to know about, and now more and more as I start learning about what people want to talk about or learn about. So if there's any topics that people want us to write about, even on the Music Entrepreneur HQ, we're willing to research and do the in-depth looks, because we want to provide that value and say, hey, you know what, we understand you may not have that, but if time to research. But if somebody asks that question, that means there's probably other people out there looking for that same type of information out there too, right? So I know we were able to do that, and now we're maybe able to put that information to a book or package it in a really nice product. Or I know when you start looking into, for example, Instagram, I think they did really well when they build value creation, because what they did was saying, hey, you can share your photos here, and sometimes those photos can add value to people's lives. It doesn't have to be a monetary thing. It can just really add smiles to people's faces, and especially when you're looking at personal one-on-ones of people I think that's an excellent thing.
Good stuff, Mav. Well, you can find us at usingyourpower.com. You can leave a comment, leave a message, download our free audio course, and also connect with us wherever you happen to be listening to this podcast: YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, wherever it happens to be. Feel free to leave a comment, rating, whatever it is that they let you do.
Awesome.
All right, talk to you next time.
Have a great day.